Before we get into this one, a little bit of an up and down week for your group. One of their biggest wins of the season, and then what's continued to kind of be. I mean, not just an issue for your group; it's an issue across a lot of teams in the conference. It's hard to go on the road and win, but your team's had some struggles with some road trips this year.
Yeah, it's a very tough conference, and life on the road, man. These long 6.5 hour drives, and we did go up a day before. It's really no excuse. We're just having a hard time winning on the road, and we're not the only ones. And we got to figure out how to get a little tougher and go out and compete a little better on the road.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're right. I mean, it's just it seems like it's just been every year this conference is competitive, but it feels like even more so this year where. Of course, Hutchinson an outlier, but we've seen Dodge struggle on the road at times this year. Barton struggled on the road. Butler struggled on the road. Your team's dropped a couple road games. It just feels like something that the SID of Coffeyville Community College, Brad Weber, always tells me is it feels like the team that's at home kind of gets an 8-point head start, and it feels even more so here in these past 6 weeks or so.
Oh, yeah, it's tough. I mean, Garden City was pumped up and ready to come after us, and we just didn't answer very well, and it's just part of college basketball. You even go through the NCAA. I mean, in the Big 12, these cats are going to losing on the road, and it's just something about it this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's get started with the Barton performance because back-to-back weeks with a win over the Butler Grizzlies in El Dorado, and then the Barton Cougars come to Nellis Hall, rematch of last year's Region 6 championship game. And for the first 20 minutes of this one, it was pretty back and forth. Both teams were kind of neck and neck for a good portion of that, and it was a good, intense game throughout the first part of it. But then your defense really just flipped a switch in the second half. We talked a little bit before the game about how Barton a little bit more prone to turnovers when they kind of get playing fast. They're a very talented team. Obviously, that reflects in their record. But they do turn the ball over a little bit. And it felt like your defense was doing a great job in that second half of anticipating where the ball was going, making shots tough, getting in the way of passing lanes, and really just making life miserable for that Barton offense. And you had to have felt like after that game it was one of your better 20-minute stretches of defense this year.
Yes, I thought we played good defensively. We had our feet moving. We were getting to the backside and collapsing down on their big post, and just contesting shots and we did a great job on the rebounding end. But that's the key. We got to guard, and today when we got back from Garden City, we talked about that. Like we had to change our mindset and not let our offense dictate our defense. And I thought against Barton, we didn't let our offense dictate our defense, and which was big for us.
And Coach, we talked a little bit about this Barton team. Obviously, every time we mention Barton, it feels like we mention just their premier size, one of the bigger rosters in this conference. And you look at the final box score, and you end up winning the rebound battle, 45-29. And you hold, of course, Vera Genoa, who's one of their better rebounding bigs, had 10 rebounds. But you hold Vivian Anuga to just 2. You hold Bertoni to 5. You hold nobody other than Bertoni and Genoa had more than 5 rebounds. So obviously had to like your efforts on defense, had to also like your efforts on the glass against a team that physically outmatched you.
Oh, yeah, they were definitely way bigger than us. But we did a good job of just attacking, finding the body and attacking the ball, and we were getting after those 50-50 balls. I thought our team responded to that team. They were a very good Barton team.
Coach, I think this is another just example of how dialed in your defense was in the second half. But something I talked about with Coach Herkelman last week was in their win over Seward County, we saw where they forced, I believe, 15, 16 turnovers, only allowed 7 team assists, and we talked about how important it is to limit that assist-to-turnover ratio, which is something I know that you and Tatana talk about a lot, having that 3-to-1, 4-to-1, 5-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio, and you hold the Barton Cougars to just 5 team assists, playing a lot of ISO ball, and you force 17 turnovers. I don't know if a negative .3 or whatever that number ends up being is going to stay true moving forward, but that's just one heck of an effort of just not only forcing turnovers like we talked about, but also preventing good ball movement on the offensive end.
Yeah, we had our feet moving. I mean, we were just anticipating passes and just getting down in the stance, and we communicated probably the best all year. And we got to grow on that and keep getting better on that defensive side. And as we finish the season strong, we're going to really battle and really focus on the defensive side of the ball.
Coach, a couple players I want to highlight here in this Barton game as well. And let's start with Jamiah Lyons, because I thought Jamiah played her best game in a couple weeks against the Barton Cougars. She came off the bench, played about 20 minutes for you, and ended up with 9 points, 6 rebounds, had 2 steals, had a block, had just felt like she was moving up and down the court really well with that second unit as a whole. But she was playing some really solid defense, getting out onto the perimeter and altering some shots and altering some possessions. And then she was, as the game went on, able to get some second chance points on some offensive rebounds and putbacks. So Jemiah, obviously there's been some ups, there's been some downs this year with her, but I thought that was one of her better performances of conference play.
Yes, Jemiah is a very, very talented player, and and as the season's going, she tore her knee up last year, and she as the season's going, she's getting a little more and more confidence with it and making different moves, moving better on the perimeter on the defensive side of it, and she has very long arms, and she's a solid basketball player.
Coach, a player that, if you looked at the box score, I don't think this would be one of the players that really stands out to, a person looking at the box score. But Ray Richardson, we've talked about Ray as the years gone on and her gaining confidence and her just really growing as a point guard and as a basketball player and seeing the court better and finding teammates better and just running the offense more smooth. And something that really stood out to me, she only played about 5 minutes in that game against Barton, but at the end of the first half with your team down by 1 or 2 points, she took a corner three that she had a look, and she took it, and she hit it, and it gave your team the lead that they really held for the rest of the game. And that really stood out to me because that's another, I think, area where Ray's starting to grow confidence as a player, where in years, maybe earlier this year and last year, you don't see Ray take that open shot, and she's looking to kind of kick it to the next open shooter, and she sends that shot, she hits that shot, and it was a big shot as that game went on.
Oh yeah, that was a huge shot. We needed that. That was a momentum changer right there once we got over that hump. And Ray is a very good point guard, and she's grown a whole lot. And she's a student of the game. She watches a lot of film. She does her due diligence of trying to prepare herself for every game. She's very coachable. She's a great teammate. We'll miss her when she moves on, and wherever she decides to go, they're going to be getting a good one.
And Coach, this is hopefully this isn't taken as me, delivering a knock on last year's team. But I think something that's different from last year's team to this year's team is last year's team. It felt like at times when Kylie, Bailey, Kennedy, Tatana, Jordan, Cheyenne got into foul trouble, or we're just not having having an off night, that there really wasn't those 4 or 5 players off the bench where you really didn't have that drop in production. This year, it feels like somebody gets in foul trouble, somebody's not having a great night. You have Karis available, you have Natalia available, you have Ray available, you have Jemiah available, you have just these players where it just feels like a more seamless rotation this year. And I'm sure experience plays a large role in that. A lot of returners that have gotten another year of experience at the college basketball level under their belt. But I think this team maybe in a way a little bit more dangerous this year just because it feels like they have more players that can make a consistent impact.
Yes, we're very deep this year, and we just got to put it all together and figure out the right chemistry. And I think, I feel like we can score it better, and even though we haven't been, but I just know we can. And it's just the defensive side of things is what we got to get more involved in, because we have a lot of talent. We're very deep, and we don't hesitate. Somebody gets a couple fouls going in there, and it's not a big drop off. We just got to keep guarding better. At the end of the day, whatever lineup we put in, we have to guard better.
And final thing, Coach, with this Barton game before we move on to the matchup with Garden City, this is something that we've also talked about this year, where we've talked about having those players step up when you're facing a premier defender that maybe slows down Kylie or Bailey, or they're having off nights, and having those role players step up around them. And I thought this Barton game was a really exciting example of what this offense can be, because Bailey and Kylie combined for 3 points on 1 of 6 shooting, and that's probably about as low of production scoring the basketball as they're going to have in any game this year. And you look at it, you still put up 62 points on a very respectable 39% shooting. Ivy had 21, Tatana had 11, Karis 7, Jemiah 9, 4 for Parker, 4 for Jones, 3 for Richardson, 3 for so just these little 4-6 points here and there. And that's really what's going to, propel this team to the top of this league, is on a night where maybe Kylie or Bailey have 9 instead of 15, that player that can give you that extra 5, 6, 7 points could be a difference maker in a game.
Oh, yes, because, these teams are definitely trying to take away Bailey and Kylie. And, I tell them, we can turn this game into a 3-on-3 game, and that's advantage on the offensive end. And we just got to step up and play with that swag, with that confidence, to step up and make some plays. And, everybody on our team has the green light. You got to go out there and just produce and shoot it like you're going to make it, and play like you want to be out there, and which they do. This team is solid. I like this team. They're fun, and it's just the whole overall team. We just like to coach our team. I emphasize that, and they're buying into that philosophy.
Coach, let's move on to this Garden City matchup as we continue our conversation. And this Garden team got off to a hot start, 17-6. Your team struggled shooting the basketball in that opening quarter, and it's kind of what we talked about a little bit earlier in conference play, where this team in a lot of their losses in Jayhawk play this year have really been very competitive for 3 quarters, and it's just kind of that 6-8 minutes stretch where a team takes an 8-point, 10-point lead that you just can't quite overcome. And it feels like that's what happened here, where you kind of dig yourself a hole in the first quarter and you play very close with Garden, outscore them by 3 points the rest of the way. But their combination of having that lead, playing with that lead, and converting at the free throw line made it a tough mountain to climb.
Oh, definitely. Garden City, they've been pretty hot. I mean, they only have 8 players, and one of their better players was injured in this game. But they just play hard. They pressure you. They run some nice sets, and they were making shots last night, and which was tough. I mean, and they guarded us. We didn't hardly get anything in the post, and when we did kick out to the threes, we did make a few, but they were there with their hands up and guarding us and making it tough on us. And I thought they sped us up really. They just sped us up last night, and they were the better team last night.
And I think, the thing that stood out to me about Garden is in that first matchup, it really felt like they were reliant on Soraya Conley, on Stevie Yancey, on, their 2-3 premier scorers to kind of carry the load offensively. And I think last night we saw a Garden team that's been through a gauntlet of a season and grown as a team. And we saw Ramos Pires, their freshman forward, contribute 10 points and 4 rebounds. We saw Conley still end up with 17 points because she had 13 free throws. We saw Maya Nieto, who really was almost a non-factor in game 1. She had 20 points last night. Antonesia Moultrie, a player that I think put up 8 and 5 in game 1. She had 13 and 13 last night. So obviously some tweaks to be made on the defensive end for your group, but also I think it's a Garden team that shown that they've matured as the year's gone on.
No, they definitely have matured. I mean, they're tough. I mean, Coach Franklin does a good job with them. They play extremely hard. I mean, they all know their role. I mean, they set a lot of those stagger screens, and and they're quick. They're probably one of the quicker teams in the league, and he's got them playing. They'll guard you. They do different kind of defensive schemes there. They'll trap you. He's doing a great job with them, and we just, like I said, they were the better team last night, and we'll have to bounce back and come back stronger.
Coach, a very solid week, I should say, for Ivy Fox. We talked about her having 21 against Barton. She had another 15 points and 9 rebounds last night, 6 of 11 shooting. We've talked about Ivy at times this year, and I know early in conference play, coming back from the winter break, you had mentioned that you had been in the gym with Ivy, working on her jump shot, trying to get some confidence in her, being more aggressive on the offensive end, taking more shots, and being more of a scoring focus for this team. And I think in these last couple of weeks, she's really shown that growth and that development on the offensive side of the basketball. And this week really culminating that together with a couple of really nice double-digit point performances.
Yeah, she's been big for us. She's rebounding. She's starting to, understand our system a little bit, understand Coach Turner, our defensive side of things. I mean, she's just doing a great job for us. She's rebounding better. She's slowed down. And, I think early when she got here, she's just trying to prove a point and it's kind of forcing some things, and now she's just letting it come to her, and she's been a big time player right now for us.
Well, and Coach, Raven fans and yourself know that mentioning the name Jordan Connor and Cheyenne Banks, that's pretty big names to kind of live up to. But I think something that Ivy does share in common with those two is she's just very, very quick and athletic for a forward down low. We see her get out and defend the perimeter. We see her be able to chase down a rebound that maybe comes off the rim a little bit harder than some maybe people expected. She's able to kind of spread the floor offensively. She's absolutely not, she's her own player, and she's got a lot of traits that Jordan and Cheyenne don't have. But in some ways, I think she's similar to those two in the fact that she really, for her size, moves really well on the court.
She does, and she moves really well, and she's strong. I mean, she works out and lifts all the time. And, we'll get those bags out, and we're holding them. She just smashes through those bags. I mean, she's a very physical player, and sometimes in the game, like last night, she was just kind of standing. She jammed the girl and just knocked her over. And I'm like, well, you got to pipe it down a little bit, girl. But no, she's a very hard-working kid. She works hard all the time. She's usually leading our sprints. I mean, she comes to practice and works hard every day. And she's going to be another kid that we'll miss. We'll miss when it's time for her to go. But she's a great kid.
Lady Ravens go 1-1 this week with a win over Barton and a road loss to Garden City. Let's step away for 2 minutes, our first break of the show. When we come back, More with Coach Turner as we get ready for the matchup with the Dodge City Conquistadors on Saturday. We're back. Downtown Coffeyville. I'm Shea Neal. We're continuing our conversation with Tony Turner, Lady Raven basketball coach, as we get ready for Saturday's showdown with the Dodge City Conquistadors. And, Coach, before we start looking at Dodge City and this matchup of two top 5 teams in the league, big news out of your program this week, a little bit earlier this week. One of your, most notable players over the last 2 years made her decision on where she's going to continue her career. Bailey Lehman commits to Rogers State, and I think it's just a really good opportunity for her, obviously. I think, cool that she gets to go be a little bit closer to home, have some support from her family and friends as she continues her basketball career. And obviously, I think it's a great get for RSU, one of the best shooters that this conference has seen over the last 2 years. And she's really grown as a player on both offense and defense this year.
Yes, they did get a good one. They got a good player, and, Bailey's going to, every day, she's just going to keep getting better and better because she works extremely hard. She's tough. I can get into her, and she takes it, and she just saw she can shoot it. She's always in the gym working on her craft, and I know she wanted to stay home. She had several opportunities to go a little bit anywhere she wanted, but she decided she wanted to. When she came here, she said, I wanted to be close to home, and which means a lot for a lot of kids. And my son went to Rogers State too, and he wanted to stay close to home, and that's a very good school, Rogers State is.
Yeah, and it's I'm glad you said that because, like you said, it is so important for and it's something that sometimes that maybe players don't realize until they're in college, until they make that decision, that how important it is to just see your parents in the stands every now and then, see a friend from high school in the stands every now and then. That's something that really I think can keep that competitive drive going and keep on the being a college athlete's a grind, and I think you obviously need those kind of pick-me-ups every now and then, and being able to see the people you care about in the stands obviously is about as good of a pick-me-up as there is.
Yes, and our parents are good. They're great people. They're very supportive. They always putting stuff on Facebook about the team, and and they're promoting all the players on the team. When someone has a good game, they promote it. Just an unselfish family, and they do a good job. And she's another kid that we're definitely going to miss. And Rogers State definitely got a good one.
Absolutely, they did. And Coach, the last thing about Bailey is I think we touched on this a little bit last week, but just really what's impressed me the most about her this year is her growth on the offensive end of the floor. Where last year really always been a great outside shooter, but we'd see her kind of set up in the corner, set up on the wing, and just be ready for that catch and shoot opportunity. This year, she's getting to the free throw line more. She's getting into the paint more, finishing around the basket. She's really become a 3-level scorer where she can finish inside, she can shoot the mid-range, and she's still, of course, as good as she's always been from beyond the arc. And that's why I think she's really taking that next step forward as a premier scorer in this league, because now teams look at Bailey Lehman and they don't have to. They can't just game plan for her to be on the arc, because she can beat you inside as well.
Yes, she can. She last year, she broke her collarbone in our second game of the season, so she was out for the first semester, and then the second semester she kind of had, it's kind of babying a little bit, so just kind of unsure if she could go in there and make those plays. And now she's just playing fearless and going out there being a big time baller, and which she always has, but she's stepping up her game.
Absolutely, and I know you're excited to have her for another 7, 8, 9 games here, hopefully this season.
So. We won week, definitely a miss.
Coach, we look at this Dodge City team, and this is something I've really been curious about since the first matchup with the Conquistadors, is how much do you really take away from a matchup like that? Because you went on the road, you fell 106-75, and obviously I think there's something to take away from every single game. But how much from that game can you really take away and say that the matchup with Dodge was just was there or wasn't there? Because they shot 60% from the field and hit 16 3-pointers. They shot 23 3-pointers in that game. So it was just a historic offensive night for the Conquistadors. And I'm curious, looking back on that, how much can you even take away from that on a night that will not happen again?
We talk to Coach Landon Steele all the time, almost every day, and he follows us and we win or lose, and we follow him, and every time we have that conversation, we say, y'all went 23 or 35 from us from the 3-point line. Come on, man, take it easy on us. But no, he even admits, this team admits it, that they were just on fire that day, and they haven't repeated that since, and I'm hoping they, knock on wood, they don't repeat it again. But it's going to be I expect it to be a different kind of matchup when they come this way.
I agree, and I think even though they were just historically good from shooting the ball that night, I think something that you do have to keep an eye on with Dodge is their depth, and of course they have just some really good players across the roster. We have Paris Atkins, who had 25, Paris Satacanarino. We've talked about her before. She was a solid role player for this team. She's almost had the Bailey Lehman growth, if you will, Coach. We're solid role player a year ago, a contributor as a freshman, and she's made that leap to star player in this conference. She's putting up about 15 points a game, 6 rebounds, 7, 8 assists. She's turned herself into a quality all-around guard, and she's probably Dodge's top all-around player, but they have 6, 7 players that can get you for 10, 12 points a night.
Oh, they're big and they can shoot, and their guards are quick, and they're smart. They got some smart. They a couple D1 transfers, and their guards are very, very smart, and they're quick, and they can shoot. So, we got to get out and guard. We're going to have to scheme it up on them, and mix up our defenses, and try to maybe even take a little air out of the ball, because if they get going, that basket gets bigger and bigger.
It sure does. And Coach, something we talked about a little bit earlier in the show was how you did such a good job of kind of taking the passing lanes a lot in that second half away from the Barton Cougars. And Dodge City, much like Coffeyville, 2 of the best teams in this conference at distributing the basketball, 2 of the better assist numbers in this league. Both teams have really good sophomore point guards. So with a Dodge team that really thrives on sharing the basketball, the inside-out mentality that you talk about, and working the ball around the perimeter, getting the best look possible, how does your defense match up with that and make sure that you force contested shots and difficult possessions versus obviously some good looks as the night goes on?
Well, we can't ball watch, and we have to get our feet moving. You got to get there. You got to early bluff, and which is a technique we use. And when we have our feet moving, it's real effective. And having our hands up and just being active and flying around and talking and just go out there and play fearless, because they have a good team, and if you come out there with your hands down, they will splash you, and because they can flat out shoot it.
Coach, your team did a nice job of getting Dodge City, getting trips to the free throw line against the Conquistadors. You do 20 fouls against Dodge. You ended up going to the free throw line 25 times, which is 12 more than they did over the course of the game. And obviously a team that shoots the three as well as Dodge City does, a team that has the depth that Dodge City does. Getting some of those players in foul trouble and getting your opportunities at the free throw line going to be big in this one at Nellis Hall. So what's the key to continuing that success from the first game and maybe drawing some contact against some of their players?
Well, we definitely, like I said earlier, we're going to take the air out of the ball a little bit and then work the ball, make them guard us, try to mess up their rhythm, and then we want to attack. We want to attack the rim and try to get some easy opportunities. Getting them in foul trouble is going to be that's a plus, but they are very deep. They have probably 10, 12 players that can play, and but we'll just play and play hard and play that fearless basketball and go in there and be aggressive, play aggressive.
Coach, easier said than done, obviously, but I think something that, I think it goes unsaid, but it's something that really fires up a defense is a blocked shot, a big momentum changer, a big, kind of game-changing play, if you will. And this Dodge City team, you hinted at their size, but they had 9 blocked shots in that first matchup with you out in Dodge City. And I think, it's just one of those plays, kind of like a dunk on a men's basketball game, kind of fires the crowd up, fires the team up. I think a big block shot fires the team up the same way. So with this Dodge team's size, how do you create enough separation to kind of prevent them from getting that swagger on the defensive end?
Well, we use some techniques, what we call fake sandwiches. Those are fakes, ball fakes, getting their heads, getting them up in the air, and just being patient down there. And if we don't have anything, just kick it out, and make them guard and make them come out and chase us. And if we can get that action going, that'll kind of eliminate some of them block shots.
Coach, you had a lot of players play some heavy minutes against the Conquistadors in that first matchup where we saw some of your second unit get some 15, 20 minutes of game time. And obviously a theme that we've talked about in the last month is just how important it is for those players to have that experience, because you never know when they're going to be needed upon in a more prominent role than they usually are. You never know when a certain player is going to pick up 2 fouls in the first 3 minutes. You never know when a player is going to go down with an injury, knock on wood. But players like Natalia, players like Ray, players like J. Maya, these players that have really emerged as key players for your second team that give your starters a few minutes to breathe every now and then. Good to see that they had some minutes against the Conquistadors, because at this point in the year with Dodge and Hutch coming up this week, they're going to be needed.
Oh, definitely going to be needed. And when we went out there, we were trying to figure out something, because it didn't matter what we did or what kind of shots they took, that ball was going in. And so we were trying different kind of schemes and different kind of matchups, and it was just, they just had that rhythm. So, unfortunately we lost, but I think in the big picture we got players some great valuable minutes, and we coached it to the end. It ain't like we just gave up. I mean, they battled, they made shots, and we just that the ball wasn't bouncing our way, and even though we did shoot pretty good, I think we shot well. It's just they shot a lot better than what we did.
Coach, I'm glad you said that, because that's my final point here tonight is you mentioned, obviously, you think this game at Nellis Hall is going to go a whole lot differently, because I don't see 23 made threes on the docket twice in a season, hopefully. Yeah. But you look at this, and you're absolutely right with some of these numbers. I mean, your team, 15 assists, only 11 team turnovers. I think it's one of the better finishing turnover numbers for this team in conference play. The rebound battle, 32-31. You hung right there with them, despite all the made shots where maybe you didn't have a ton of chances to rebound the basketball. You end up shooting 40% from the floor. You knock down 11 threes as a team as well. You get to the free throw line 25 times. There's a lot of things to look at from this first game with Dodge City and be happy with how the team played. So obviously going into this one, kind of anticipating those numbers for Dodge's offense to drop just a bit. You have to feel good about what you saw against their defense, what you saw matching up schematically about how your team can hang, and obviously being at home at Nellis Hall is huge.
Oh, yeah, we'll have to definitely play. I mean, we'll have to come out there and battle and play, again, play fearless, and go out there with that eye of the tiger, go out and just know that we can compete with that team and not be afraid, and make it tough on them. We shoot it just as well as they do, have that same swag that they have, and go out and just play the game and go out and battle. That's going to be the difference of from out there to here, and hopefully we can get our home crowd involved and get some momentum going that way and make some big shots. And I think the key is going to be how well we start out early in the game.
Is the vibe any different in the locker room over the last couple of weeks? Is the confidence higher with your group after the win on the road against Butler, the win against Barton? Obviously, we know we had a feeling heading into the season that your team could hang with anyone in this conference. They were picked to be a top 5 team for a reason. But with back-to-back big wins, one on the road, one at home, against 2 teams that gave this team problems this year, 2 teams that went deep into the playoffs last year, is there more confidence in the locker room right now that they can match up with a Dodge, match up with a Hutch? Do these girls feel more fired up than they did a couple weeks ago?
You would hope so. Until after last night, probably our confidence level kind of dropped a little bit, and in that locker room after the game. But today's workout was good. I think that long bus ride got us a chance to sit and reflect back on some of the mistakes we were making in the game against Garden City, and I thought the practice today was a great practice. We flew around. The energy level was high. I think they thought we was going to come in and run a lot, but we just came in and locked in and played and practiced and got better as a team.
Great stuff from Coach Tony Turner as the Lady Ravens get ready for Dodge City on Saturday and look to knock off their third consecutive top 5 team in the Jayhawk Conference. Coach, thanks so much. We appreciate it. Best of luck on Saturday. We can't wait for the game.
Thank you, Shay. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Step away for 3 minutes. When we come back, Coach Herkelman joins the show. It's the Red Raven Coaches Show, sponsored by Gigi's Burger Bar, Carter Auto Parts, and the David W. Barnes Funeral Home. We're back in 3 minutes on the Mighty 690. Downtown Coffeyville. I'm Shay Neal. Alongside with me now, Jay Herkelman, as we shift to the men's team. Big thanks to Carter Auto Parts. Big thanks to the David W. Barnes Funeral Home. Big thanks to Gigi's, all for sponsoring the show. And, of course, we'll have the Kansas State Coaches Show with Jerome Tang coming up at the top of the hour. So stay tuned for that here on KGGF as the Wildcats look to get back in the win column this weekend. Coach, we look at your team and another week where it's so close, but, obviously just kind of the theme of the season where you go up against a Barton team that I felt like you competed really well with Barton. I thought you matched their intensity well. I thought you matched their energy well. And obviously just a team that hasn't lost a lot this year, just one loss. And then you go out to Garden City, and I think you play much better on the defensive end. I think Brian Griffith had one of his best scoring games of the season, and of course, one of your starters, Chris Carroll, ends up being sick, and it's just kind of a theme of this year where your team does things right, does things well, and there's just kind of those one or two things that hold you back from a W.
Yeah, going back to the Barton one, we felt like we had a good plan going in, just how we were going to give ourselves a chance, and it was about transition defense, because they really get down the floor. They try to score it early in their possessions, and we did a good job of that early. Not turning the ball over up there. We had 20 turnovers, and that really hurt us. So we wanted to limit our turnovers, and then we had to do a good job of rebounding. And they're just they got multiple guys they're bringing off the bench. They got a good team. They got big forwards, athletic forwards, and they kind of got after us on the inside more so than what we wanted to, obviously, and that was the difference of the game. And then going out to Garden City, the first game we played Garden City, it was a high-scoring game, and it was 106 to 90 something, and we knew we had to slow them down playing at home. And then going out there, we got the news on Monday that Chris was sick with the flu. He had a pretty good fever, and just told by the nurse that there's no way he would be going with us. And so, we had to kind of put a plan together, because they've got really good forwards. 6'9", big, strong, and 6'10", and so we went. We played a lot of zone, something that we haven't done, and we felt like that was a way that we could keep our forwards out of foul trouble, and we did that. And then also just try to slow them down, because I knew they wouldn't be expecting it, because we just don't play zone. We did a pretty good job of slowing them down. We held them to 69 points, but we didn't score ourselves like we needed to. The second half, we were 0 for 9 from 3. And that's kind of one of the strange things about this team. When we score it well, we don't guard as well. When we guard really well, we don't score it very well. So,
and that's obviously I'm sure nothing more frustrating than that for you. But going back to the Spartan game and looking at it, you talked about the rebound battle, but I think the thing that really stands out to me is two players really just were outstanding for Barton in that game. Really three, but you had Ring Malith, who came alive in the second half, and your team battled, came back, took the lead, and really felt like they were chipping away and finding a way that was working against Barton. And then Malith hits 3-4 threes, and all of a sudden it's back up to an 8-9 point game. He kind of emerged as a premier shooter and scorer in the playoffs last year. And then you had Lejai Jones, who we talked a little bit about before the game, and he's just he was a transfer for them, and he's just become a huge impact piece for them. He rarely comes out, which is incredible for a forward. He played 37 minutes, 23 points, 15 rebounds. He's athletic. He can spread the floor. He can score at 3 levels. And those two, combined with the IQ of Mose, who had 12 assists in that game, it's a pretty lethal trio for Barton.
Yeah, we did actually go to the zone in the second half against them, and it worked. Like you said, we were down, I think, 8 or so at halftime, and cut it back and actually took the lead. But then, that's when Ring Malith really started going, and he hit some tough shots. He hit some from deep in the corner. A couple of them were really well guarded, tough, difficult shots that if you're in a zone, you're playing the percentages that, okay, they're not going to make too many of those, and he made them, and it gave those guys energy. Leger, I mean, he's just a heck of a ball player. He's probably the best player in the league. Here in Nuanku over at Cowley. He just scores it different ways. He shoots it well enough. He's so athletic. He's D1 transfer, played at Tarleton State, I believe, but I can't believe that they let him go, because he'll go higher than that, leaving out of Barton County. He likes playing against us. I mean, he had good numbers when we played up there, and he had a double-double in the first half here, and we didn't have an answer for him. And then Mose, Mose doesn't score the ball, but he really runs the team well. he doesn't shoot it. We know that. He knows that too. That's the great thing about him. He doesn't try to shoot shots that he shouldn't shoot, and he runs a team. And he did a great job getting guys the ball. And they're just they're playing at a high level. They got 4 starters that were on their team last year, and then you had a guy like Jones on their team, and it's a heck of a ball club. That's why they're ranked number 2 in the nation.
It sure is. And, Coach, looking at this team, really I think one of the positive takeaways from this Barton game is one of the better all-around offensive outputs from your starting 5 in this game, where we saw 18 from Brian, 18 from Janai, 15 from Chris, 15 from Javen, 14 from CJ. And with those 5 and the growth they've gone through this year and the ups and the downs, having all 5 of those guys in double figures, that's going to obviously lead to success on the offensive end more times than not. So it's good to see Chris and Janai continuing their output. It's good to see, of course, guys like CJ and Javen starting to get more comfortable on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, when you looked at the stats afterwards, it's, we played well. We shot on the offensive end. We shot the ball well. We took good shots. We shot good percentage from 3, from 2. We shot free throws well. But they got like 22 more shots than we did in the game. I mean, they just killed us on the boards, and that was the difference of the game. Getting that kind of output offensively is great, but you still got to be able to do the other things and put yourself in a position.
Absolutely, you do. And Coach, as we shift now to this matchup with Garden, and it was obviously when you find out that Chris isn't going to be able to make the trip with the team, that's 15, 16 points off your offense, an offense that already has some inconsistencies. But I think something to take away that was impressive was it really in a second half of the season where we've been saying Brian Griffith's name a whole lot more. His confidence has gone up. His running of the offense has improved. His shot selection has improved. His efficiency has improved. Really felt like he had one of his more complete performances. A season-high 25 points. He had 10 shots. He had 4 made threes. He had a couple assists as well. Obviously, not a perfect performance, but on a night where you didn't have one of your key players, I think Brian stepped up well.
Yeah, going out there without Chris, he's the strongest guy we got on the team. And with the forwards, as I mentioned, that Garden City has one of their strengths, but also their guard play. They're talented, and it's kind of curious to me anyway why, and my staff, why they're not better night in, night out. Because they got 2 forwards that are as good as anybody in the conference. They got a point guard that's one of the best in the conference. He's averaging 20 points a game. Their 2 guard, Jones, he'd been struggling, but last night he found a shot again. He's averaging 19 or 20. And their other wing is a 6'4", 6'5" athlete that can score the ball, and then they come off the bench with some good players. So, the way they play against us, I think they should be one of the top teams in the conference, and yet they're sitting around 6th place, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm glad you said that because we were talking a little bit in the pregame yesterday, and it's like you look at this team, and they don't have the depth that some other teams have, like Barton, like Cowley, like Hutch, but their top. I think their starting 5 is as good as anybody.
They are. Their starting 5 is really good. Brody does a good job of running the point, and he's so aggressive. He can score it, but I think he's leading the nation in assists per game. He's averaging over 9 assists per game. And so with the ability to score like that and be able to pass it, he's a handful out there. So anyway, we decided without Chris, we would work on our zone, and we put in another zone. We played 2 different types of zones, try to keep them off balance a little bit so they wouldn't get comfortable and get in a rhythm, and for the most part it worked. But yeah, just not having Chris scoring against we got nothing on the inside. Well, I shouldn't say that. CJ, he only had 3 points. Charles Caparoso had probably his best game of the year. He had 12 points, 12 rebounds. Charles really played well and did a good job in the middle of the zone. And getting back to Brian, yeah, it was probably his best scoring game. 25. And some of the other guys were struggling. Javen didn't score, and they were just face guarding Janai. They weren't letting him go. anywhere without somebody just around him. And so, I mean, it was a good plan by Rusty out there. Coach Elmore, he knew Chris wasn't with us and figured he'd take out the next best scorer, which is Janai, and see what would happen, and it was very effective.
Absolutely, and Coach, something that it seems to be a theme this year in the Jayhawk Conference is experienced point guards really among the best teams in the league. Where you have Mose at Barton, you have Arzante Dallas at Cali, and you have Brody Robinson at Garden. It's his first year at Garden, but he's another Division I transfer. He's a talented player, and what really impresses me about him is the different ways he can impact the game. Where the first game between these two teams, he had 22 points in the first half. He was hitting every shot he threw up. I think he finished with 28-29 in that game. So he showed he's a lethal scorer. Yep. And then in the second game, when his shot's not falling, like you said, one of the best court vision and passing guards in this league as well. He ends up with 12 assists, 12 assists and let's look at that number. He ended up 12 assists and 9 rebounds, so almost a double
with assists and rebounds.
So just a guy that really, it feels like a theme in this conference this year. Those sophomore point guards really showing their IQ and showing their experience across some of the top teams in the league.
And Rusty, he went to the portal, I guess, because he has, and their radio guy actually made the comment about it, how it was the freshmen versus the D1 transfers. Last night they have 4 in their starting lineup. They have 4 Division I transfers, and we had our whole team without Chris out there is all freshmen. And that experience, those guys playing at those D1 levels and playing against the competition that they've played against, and our guys are still trying to find their way.
Coach, you mentioned Charles's game, and I think I agree with you. I think it was his best overall performance of the season because not only the double-double with 12 points and 12 rebounds, but 3 areas where I think Charles has had freshman struggles this season is fouling, turning the ball over, and free throw line struggles. And he went 4 of 4 at the line, only 1 foul, only 1 turnover. Yep. So you look at the double-double, that's great, but I think he also cleaned up a lot of the other areas of his game as well last night and really put together a complete performance like you said.
Yeah, he did, and I think playing the zone helped because man-to-man, just his inexperience, he loses his guys some and things happen out there fast, but playing in the middle of the zone, things aren't as fast for him. And he was able to be effective in there, and he was in position to rebound, and he did a great job of that. But he also, the thing he did that he struggled earlier, just catching the ball in traffic in the lane and finishing. Those simple things, weren't so simple for him earlier in the year. And yesterday he was doing that. He caught it. He finished. He had some good, strong moves, some dunks, and hopefully that's going to help him have that confidence going down the stretch now that he's been able to do it and do it against good players.
Absolutely. Ravens return home to Nellis Hall this weekend. They battle the Dodge City Conquistadors, looking to get back in the win column in what is currently a big game in the standings coming up with Dodge City and the Ravens. So let's step away for 2 minutes, our final break of the show. We'll talk about the matchup with Dodge City with Coach Erkelman when we come back in 2 minutes on the Mighty 690 KGGF. Show with Coach Tang coming up here in just about 10 minutes, and appreciate Coach Turner for joining us at the start of the show. We continue our conversation with Coach Herkelman here as we get ready for Dodge City. And Coach, in the first matchup with the Conquistadors this year, went on the road, shot the ball really well, 52% from the floor, 43% from downtown, played good defense on the Conquistadors. It felt like a lot of things went right in that matchup for your team against Dodge City, against a Dodge City team that has some talent. So in that first matchup, what did you see from your group, and what were some of the advantages you had that led to that success?
Yeah, I was actually watching that game on the bus on the way back today, and that was the game where C.J. Smith and Charles Caparassa were both sick with the flu and didn't go on the trip with us. But we did. We went out there and played well. Janai got it going from the three-point line, but a number of guys were scoring the ball well. Yeah, I thought our defense was pretty solid that game also. We got up to a 20-point lead early in the second half and then just kind of maintained things through the rest of the way. This game on Saturday is going to be a big one in the standings.
Yes, it is. You mentioned that, and two teams that are fighting for obviously the opportunity to host a first-round playoff game, and both teams also coming off of losses because Dodge City dropped a game to Seward County earlier this week, so that's a big game for both sides. But it'll be an interesting matchup because when we talked about Dodge City earlier this year, really solid guard play from the duo of Gavin Shannon and Ice Emery. They have a couple other guys as well that contribute to that. But a team that really doesn't have the forward depth that they had a year ago.
Right.
And obviously your team has had some inconsistencies at the forward spot this year as well. So it could be a battle of which team's guards are playing better.
Yeah, they do. They have good guards. They're very aggressive. They try to get you in transition, and then they do some nice actions to try to get those guys shots. So we'll have to be on it defensively. But yeah, the importance of it. We obviously it's been a struggle this year, but we're still trying to get a first round playoff game at home. And I tell our guys, you see it all the time, conference tournaments where somebody who isn't supposed to all of a sudden gets hot. And we've shown where we're capable of playing with everybody. We just haven't been able to get over the hump in a lot of these games. Yeah. And so you never know what can happen come the postseason. And it's important to try to get that first playoff game at home. And so being that we beat Dodge out there, if we can beat them on Saturday, that gives us the first tiebreaker if we would end up tied. And right now they're like a half a game ahead of us, and we're sitting on the outside right now. We're in ninth. Dodge City, I think, is 8th, and then Northwest Tech is 7th. And so the top 4 teams, they get byes, and then the next 4 teams get first-round playoff games at home against the next 4 teams. And so that's what we're striving for. And I tell you, the other team that we're hoping we can catch is Northwest Tech, but they are really playing well. They beat Garden City a week ago. They took Hutch to the wire last night. They were beating Hutch in the last minute of the game, and Hutch made a couple plays at the end to be able to win a close one. They're really playing well. You're absolutely right. The biggest thing is trying to move up at least the one spot, and this game on Saturday is going to be big for us.
Yes, it is, and you're right about Northwest Tech. It's a team that really it kind of caught me off guard a couple days ago, too, where I was taking a look at the standings before the matchup with Garden City, and I was like, man, they jumped into the top 6-7 out of nowhere, and they are playing some really good basketball, some good athletes that have started hitting some shots in the second half of the season, and a great defensive team as well. So this is obviously a huge game, and you look at this matchup, and something that really stands out to me, your team won the rebound battle 37-28. But a big reason for that, 15 rebounds for Alvin Cole, probably his best game rebounding the ball all year long. And whether it's Alvin, whether it's Charles coming off of the big game against Garden, obviously having those two forwards down low, huge X factor in this game is going to be them winning the battle on the glass.
Yeah, and the other forward that's not with us, Boubacar Keita, he had a good game. I think he had 10 points, and he rebounded the ball pretty good that game. We're hoping Al gets back into that rebound mode like he was earlier. He had some stretches. He played well against Garden City the first time and didn't play as well yesterday, but Charles did. So we're anticipating also having Chris back. I saw him today. He came over this afternoon when we got back, and I talked to him. And the nurse didn't want him to practice today, but she's gave him the green light to practice tomorrow. So we'll see how his conditioning is, because the guys who have had that flu in the past, Charles and CJ, when they had that, and boy, it just takes it out of you. And you can't just jump back in there and think that you're going to play 35 minutes because you're going to get exhausted out there. So we'll see how he is tomorrow in practice and working back in there, but it's going to be nice having him back with us on Saturday.
Coach, another thing that really I've started focusing on here in the second half of the season is assist-to-turnover ratios. Obviously, the best teams in the league distribute the ball well. The best teams in the league limit their turnovers. Right. And that's a number I've just been really keeping my eyes on. And in this first matchup with Dodge, only 10 turnovers by the Conquistadors. Not a terrible number in this league, but only 11 team assists. And I think that's another key for your team is the defense played well for stretches this year. There's been some off nights, but I think for the most part this year it's been a good defense. And obviously if you can keep that assist and turnover number as close to 1-to-1 as possible, that puts your defense in a good spot.
Yeah, we emphasize that so much in practice about taking care of the ball and getting shots. And earlier in the year with such a young team, they didn't understand the importance of it. And as we've gone along, that's one thing that we are getting better at, just taking care of it. And also now they understand the offense a little bit better and where people are going to be and what other guys are going to be doing. So, but yeah, that is such a big factor in ball games. Second chance points and turnovers, stats that a lot of people don't look at, when they look at the final score. But if you look at a stat sheet, those two things there are big indicators of who's winning and who's losing.
Coach, final thing I have for you. Appreciate your time as always. Both of these teams got to the free throw line quite a bit in this first matchup, with Dodge City ended up 24 free throws. Your team had 18. Both teams shot the ball pretty well at the line as well. 78% for you, 75% for Dodge. A team that's really shot the free throw shots well all season long, but obviously trying to keep some of your key players out of foul trouble, like Charles, like CJ, like Chris, like Janai. How do you take advantage of getting back to the line against them like you did in the first matchup, but maybe also trying to cut back some of your personal fouls a little bit as well?
Yeah, just running good offense, trying to attack inside. We don't do that as much as I would like. We keep emphasizing that because it's hard to guard in a post, and you get opportunities to go to the free throw line when you throw it in there. You draw more fouls down in that area. So we continue to emphasize that. But and on the other end of the floor, man, every day we're talking about guarding without fouling. And last night, I think Garden City might have only shot 2 free throws in the game last night. They didn't shoot many. But, I mean, we were zoned up, but still in a zone you can still foul. But the guys were doing a good job of moving their feet and not taking dumb chances trying to make steals and things or fouling shooters. And so we limited them to the very low total on their free throw shooting.
Yeah, you did, and I just checked that for you. 1 out of 2, and both. Yeah. It looks like both were on and ones because it was 2 players. It was 1 of 1 and 0 of 1. So.
Right.
But yeah, absolutely. That's a key part of this, and a huge matchup that's coming up for the Ravens on Saturday against the Dodge City Conquistadors. Coach, always appreciate the time. Best of luck on Saturday. Thanks for joining us.
All right.
And big thanks to Carter Auto Parts. Big thanks to Gigi's Burger Bar. Big thanks to the David W. Barnes Funeral Home for sponsoring the show. I'm Shane Neal saying so long. We'll talk to you next time. We'll talk to you Saturday as the Ravens battle the Dodge City Conquistadors. Let's get back to the programming. The Coach's Show with Jerome Tang coming up next on the Mighty 690 KGGF.